Hey, welcome to Thursday Night Live, the show where I get to relive my childhood, sing a Sesame Street song, and get to know some of the fabulous people around our community. Glad you've joined me. Oh, who are the people in your neighborhood, in your neighborhood, in your neighborhood? Oh, who are the people in your neighborhood, the people that you meet each day? Well, hey everybody, we're down to our last week of 4 weeks. It's been a good 4 week run for Thursday Night Live, season 3, I guess you'd say. And I've enjoyed getting to know some of the people in our neighborhood. I hope you have too. And tonight we're going to take the opportunity to sit down with 4 teachers from a couple of our local schools. And they're going to share a little bit about what life's been like for them this past year and just what life is like as a teacher in general. So this is a fun conversation, lots of great insight, and I hope you enjoy it. Here we go. So here we are with some of the fabulous teachers from Townsview School and from Woodstock High School for Thursday Night Live. Thank you to 4 of my friends for joining us, and look forward to our conversation tonight. One at a time, would you just take a minute to introduce yourselves to everybody watching? Tell us who you are, who you're connected to, all that kind of stuff about your families.
Sorry. I'm Nikki Carpenter. I teach grades 7 and 8 here at Townsview School, French immersion. I also get a chance to teach some of the English classes as well because I teach post-intensive French as well. I've been teaching in New Brunswick for 7 or 8 years. I've lost count. But I taught in the States before that in Maine. I'm originally from Maine, which also means I haven't seen my family since last February because of our lovely pandemic. But I live in Belleville, just out near the border with my husband, Mark, and my 2 beautiful boys, Ian and Evan, who are 10 and 7.
Awesome. Who's next?
I'll go. I'm Marissa Whiteway, and I teach at Townsview School. With Nikki, I teach grade 1 French immersion. We live in Bedell with my husband, Andrew, who is our CMP officer here in town. And we've got 2 kids, Cameron and Connor. Cameron is 8 and Connor is 6. That's me.
All right.
Okay, I'm Tara Lawrence. I teach here at Woodstock High School. I teach math mostly, and then I teach this year a course called Individual and Family Dynamics, which is super fun. And then I teach another course called Housing and Interior Design, which is another one of my passions. I'm married to a fellow teacher, Dana Lawrence. He teaches at Townsview as well. We've been married for 27 years. And we have 2 children that are way older than everybody else's children. Our son Colby is 24 and our daughter Emma is 21.
Will, let's hear it.
My name is Will Davidson. I teach grade 9 through 12 music at Woodstock High School. Last year was the first year I also started teaching political science, which is another passion of mine, kind of as Tara said. And that's been something I've really, really enjoyed. I moved to Woodstock in 1997. This is my 24th year here. And my wife, Cindy, teaches down at Townsview. And we have 2 kids, Elizabeth, who's graduating this year, and John, who's in grade 9 this year. So.
All right. Let's start real straight up, real simple. What made you want to be a teacher? Did you know from the time you were just a little kid?
I did.
Okay, I'll start. I did know from the time I was a little kid, and people laugh when I tell this story, but it is the honest truth. I have one sibling, an older sister, who is 18 months older than I am. So we're very close in age. And when we were younger, we used to like to play school. There was a pair of sisters who were neighbors of ours who used to come to our house all the time, and we always played school. And my sister always got to be the teacher because she was the oldest. So I really think that one of the reasons that I wanted so badly to become a teacher is because I just wanted my turn. But I also love a captive audience. So
Yeah.
You've got that.
yeah. Some days I teach middle school, you remember.
Right. Nice. Keep
I
going.
was 6. I was 6, thinking from kindergarten. And I kind of similar way, I think I just wanted to be bossy. I think it's just in my nature to want to be bossy and like run the show. And I think from a very young age, that was kind of my my personality. I think it's ebbed into something a little more, higher,
More wholesome.
better reason, more classy reasoning than that. But I think at the beginning, that's probably where it started. And I never kind of lost I always wanted to be a teacher. Maybe a short little period, a little stint of wanting to do something else, but collating newspapers in the basement of the Bugle, like really solidified that, no, this was not for me. I definitely needed to do something like, with my brain, and I needed to work in a classroom. I could not do that. Hats off to people who can, but I couldn't. So.
Yeah, I can't remember not ever wanting to be a teacher, I think. I mean, something I've always wanted to do. I babysat when I was a teenager. I worked at summer camps. I volunteered in different elementary schools all throughout high school. And I think also having a few really great teachers in my life also probably helped push me in that direction as well. I did, like Tara, have a brief stint of thinking, okay, maybe I'm going to go in another direction. I did audition for theater school, but decided that, probably not as, I don't know, something more solid.
Theatrical.
A better career choice.
A little more stable.
More stable. That's right.
Yeah.
More stable. Yeah. So I it's just something that I've always wanted to do.
You teach grade 1 though, so I mean, theater is part of your life every day still, right?
I just put on a show every day.
I was going to say that I've been in her classroom when she's teaching, and they eat it up. They love it.
Well, you will.
Well, I wanted summers off. No, I'm kidding. No, it's interesting. Like, for me, I'm the type of person, I'm probably more comfortable, say, performing or speaking in front of a group of people than I am one-on-one. I've always kind of seen myself as a very awkward person one-on-one. And I think part of that was that my introduction to school wasn't great. I didn't like school for the first few years at all. And for me, it was when I had one teacher in particular who recognized that that music was something that was just innately in me, and that it was going to be something that would serve as a lot of great introductions, I guess you could say. And I knew by the time I was in grade 7, I had a couple of teachers who were really, really influential. And by the time I was in grade 10, midway through grade 10, I made the decision that I had another plan, like another idea, but I was 99% sure by the time I was in grade 10 that I was going to be a teacher, and that likely I was going to be a music educator. I had a really, really influential teacher at Fredericton High School who was tough, but he very, very much took me under his wing, and that he was my mentor and a huge, huge influence. And I think at that age, especially at grade 10, grade 11, you're very impressionable. But beyond being impressionable, that's when you really kind of start to form thoughts about the future and so on. And for me, I had done a degree in music, and kind of like Marissa, it's kind of a terrifying thing to step into that world kind of thing. But I'm darn glad for it now, because it may not have led me here, I guess.
Cool. What's the best thing about being a teacher?
Summer's off. I think we thought we were through this. Kidding.
Only Will is brave enough to say it.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing.
I think
Gotta be good though.
just the community of a school, just being
Yeah.
part of that community of a school. And well, we're lucky, Marissa and I, and Will and Tara, I'm sure you guys have watched kids, grow up, especially kids probably that went to school with your own children. But like, just to get the chance to see kids, that you started with in grade 4 who are now in grade 8, or, you know what I mean? Just to see them progress and grow and change. It's really cool.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that. And I'm really seeing it hit me when my daughter came to high school, because for so long, of course, you teach other people's children and siblings and so on. And I remember for years, Cindy would say, you wait, because all through school, both of the kids were in the same school together, and Liz and John are only in their school 1 year together here. But I remember when Elizabeth got here, it was kind of like, oh, wow. Like it's there's a certain excitement about it. And like you said, when you see their friends with them and you see how they interact and so on and so forth, it's a lot of fun,
Best thing for me, especially at the level that I teach, is just seeing that progress in one school year that the students make starting in September, and especially coming into their first year of learning a new language. So it's their first year of French immersion. They come in basically knowing nothing. And just to see how far they come by the end of a school year, that's my favorite thing. We're coming into my favorite months of the school year in March, April, and May. It's just kind of this sweet spot I find that you kind of hit. You're all in kind of a stride and you've got a good thing going, and they're just sponges and they've already learned so much. So just seeing the growth in a school year is my favorite thing. Just seeing the success and reflecting back on how far they've come is great.
Neat.
I think there's a couple things, but I love when kids who have had like perhaps a negative math experience, because I'm predominantly a math teacher, I love when they can have a positive experience, they work hard and they achieve something. That's fun. Like the nerd in me really gets excited about that. And then the other very real part of this that I would be lying if I didn't say is that being a mom, it almost makes me teary-eyed to say, like, being a mom and being a teacher are like a perfect combination. I get all the time with my kids that I wanted. Anytime they were in school, I was in school. When they were home, I'm home. And that's my number one job, was being a mom. So I love that part of being a teacher as well. And it's just, we joke about having the summers off, but you're with your family. So it's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Worst thing about being a teacher?
Ooh.
I would have to say just having to deal with situations that
People like me.
parents, yes, yes,
Will say it.
especially parents of my grade 8. No,
We're going to turn off the comments.
no, just dealing with uncomfortable situations, be it talking to a parent about a student who's maybe not doing what they should be doing, or having a conversation with a colleague if there's something that's happening, between your classes, or, even just having a conversation with a student in your class who is not pulling their weight or not doing what they're supposed to be doing, or is, having behavior issues. That, for me, that's I just want them to like being here, and I want it to be an enjoyable experience, and I want them to be working and learning.
Mm-hmm.
And when there's something that prevents that, that's what makes it. That's probably one of the worst parts for me.
Gotcha.
I would say for me, the worst thing, and this could be really about any job or career or anything, but it's just a feeling that you are never done something. There's
Yeah.
so much to do and so much to cover, and there's so many, student needs and that kind of thing that it's not like you can just check off, okay, that's done, on to the next thing kind of a thing. It's just, there's always something to do in the classroom with a student, whether it's, marking or meetings or I don't know, whatever else we've got going on in the schools. And then you're trying to make that connections with home and, that kind of thing. And it's just, I find it's hard to get that feeling of, okay, I've gotten ahead, I can breathe a little and, that kind of thing. So finding a balance. I mean, like Tara said, you're fortunate enough that you have this time that you can spend with your family, but to actually be present and be there in that time is sometimes, well, for me personally, I guess it's just, I have to find that balance, and it's sometimes can be a challenge because, I do take work home with me, and because it's hard to get ahead while you're here because there's so much else happening.
I'm surprised nobody jumped right in and said report cards. I thought that was the worst season of a teacher's life, but maybe it's not that as bad as I thought. Let's talk about just recent happenings. No secret, it's been a weird, almost a year now, and life's upside down for lots of people. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of people. Lots of things have changed in your guys' world of teaching and how we do education. What has this year been like for you guys? Maybe just on a personal level, but also professionally as a teacher.
I'll start. I said to Dana in the fall, I said, this was the hardest startup of my career. And you think back to being a young teacher and not knowing what you were doing, and this is still the hardest year I think I've ever had. So the learning curve with the technology, because I was determined to be online every day and do the whole synchronous learning. But man, I was not prepared for what I didn't know. My friend Jamie and I joke about how, we rate ourselves on a scale of 1 to 10, like with our tech knowledge. And, I'd say, we get this survey from the department, rate your knowledge about computers. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like a 7 and 8, like that. And then this year started and I realized I'm like a 2, like I know nothing, and yet I was expected to perform at a 7 or an 8. And I know there was a lot of grace there for us, but at the same time, the expectation probably on myself was that I would keep getting the material taught with an excellence, like a quality, that everyone would come out knowing what, linear inequalities are. And that was not easy to do, teaching every other day. So I would just say, whoa, it's been hard. And I think we're getting there. Don't get me wrong. And I think we've done the best we could. But at the same time, I guess I was unprepared for that.
Yeah.
Now, I would say conversely, our startup was probably the best we've ever had. But that's because they did a staggered start where they only started 2 grade levels per day because to figure out how to move all of these kids to this building, right? So it was fantastic for us because, we had a little more time, I would say, with our individual classes to get to know them. And I actually had I have a split 7-8 class. And so the 7s came one day and the 8s came the next. So I had 9 kids one day and 9 kids the next, or 10 and 9, whatever they were then. So that part of it was really nice. The one thing I want to say about this year is, and this 100% includes the high school teachers as well, is that I am so impressed with the resiliency of both teachers and students. Like, these kids have just stepped up and done what they needed to do right from K, and I'm guessing all the way through 12. And I think teachers have really done a bang up job too. Just, we do what needs to be done and we figure out a way to do it. I'm with Tara. I thought I was, I would have put myself at like a 5 or a 6 with technology, and I'm right with you. I'm definitely a 2, but I'm getting there. I'm learning. So, and that's the thing, right? Like everybody has just adapted so well. I'm just impressed with.
I think for me, it's been more a little bit of a shift personally, more so than professionally. I mean, it has been a shift professional, of course. I think that goes without saying. I mean, as far as, at the school, obviously with the pandemic restrictions and so on, it has put a limit on what we're able to do extracurricularly, and that's happening province-wide, and it's happening in many provinces. And Neil and I had been talking about this a while ago. For me, last March 13th, it was like, I think I used the analogy, Neil, of a crash test dummy in a car hitting a wall, right? And then all of a sudden, when you hit that wall, fortunately, I was able to get out of the car, but it's like there was nothing beyond the wall in terms of, say, like my extracurricular programs. And that was certainly a really big switch for, like, obviously myself and the students here at the building. Between the choir, the jazz combos, the musical, and so on and so forth. But I think, on a professional level, as far as, like, for example, the online teaching and getting the technology and all that, I've kind of taken the professional attitude of, I'm going to do bit by bit, day by day, and just not let that element of it overwhelm me. Because I think if you do, you can end up in a really bad place mentally. I think for me, I had to look at it as, okay, here's, for example, my grade 10 music class. This is what we've got to do today. This is how I'm going to do it. And instead of thinking, for me, instead of thinking 3 months down the road, I had to take the approach of, baby steps, day by day by day. And so far, thankfully, it's working out. It's working out just fine. For me personally, I think this was a little bit of a blessing in disguise, in the sense that, when you get actively involved in activities like, Tara and Dana coaching basketball, for example, and so on, or my wife doing drama and music at Townsview and so on, you get into this mindset that you always do it because you've always done it, because you've always enjoyed it and you value it and it's important. And boy, do you ever miss it when it's gone. But the flip side of that has been, that's been a lot of time I've been able to invest in obviously my family and some other personal projects that I've wanted to do. And in that sense, it's been really good to kind of step back and really take stock of the things that are, and I don't think this is unique to me. I think a lot of people during this pandemic have really taken the opportunity to take stock of what they really value in their lives.
Marissa, anything to add there?
No, I would just echo what Nikki said. I mean, I'm really surprised and impressed at the resiliency of the students. Especially the age group that I see, kindergarten to grade 2, they've been troopers. I mean, it's like nothing is different, really. We come in, we're in our little bubble, and I mean, the class sizes have obviously been a blessing, the smaller class sizes, which has been, it hasn't been without its struggles. Obviously, I see the struggles in my own kids when they go to school. Cameron, every day before she goes to school, has a little bit of a meltdown that she has to wear a mask all day. She works through it, and on her way, and has a great day. So, I'm pleasantly surprised, I guess. And every time there's a new change, or, we're waiting on some announcement, or, some change is coming, of course, that there's anxiety and it can feel overwhelming and all of those things. But I think in the end, because we're unable to do things together as a staff that we would normally get together to do, to kind of boost morale and that kind of thing too. So you've really, really got to hold on to the connections that you make with your colleagues as well. So I feel like that has brought, at least the colleagues that I work with closely, that has brought us even closer together, because we're really all we have. And, you know, we can go to each other for support when things get really overwhelming and that kind of thing, or just if we need to vent about something, or if I can't get my Zoom meeting to work, then I run to a friend. So, you know, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, it's had its ups and downs, but I try to just see the positives.
What have you seen as really good about online learning? And on the flip side, you've seen as like, this is just not good or frustrating or whatever. What's been tough about it? Next question.
Well, no, I can say one thing. We only did full online for 2 weeks in January here. And one thing that, and this is kind of a small thing, but it was really very eye-opening to me. In our team setup, the way that we have what we're using is Microsoft Office Teams, and there's a chat feature. So like a student can send me just a message, and it only comes to me. And I found that I had students reaching out, asking questions, asking for clarification, frankly, all hours of the night. I mean, I had kids that were messaging me until 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, which, you know, not a big deal. But I just felt like some of those questions might not have gotten asked in a classroom setting, because some kids, especially at the middle school level, are hesitant to ask what they think might be quote unquote stupid questions. And so I really feel like I made a little bit of a connection, even more of a connection with some of those kids. And I really feel like some of those kids made a little more progress than they might have in the classroom, because I might not have known they had those questions. So that was one thing to me that was really eye-opening and positive. For me, I don't know if the kids found it positive, but I did.
Yeah, very neat.
Yeah, my experience with online learning, we've, like Nikki said, we've only had the 2 weeks, and at the primary level, we send home sort of a paper-based packet that students can work from home, and then the technology piece is kind of an extra. So the 2 weeks that our students were home, I was really just using technology to connect with kids one-on-one. So I would just do a Teams call with a kid just to check in and we'd talk in French for a little bit, and they would, you know, take me around their house and show me all their toys in their room and that kind of thing. But it was just really connecting, so we didn't kind of lose that connection piece from being in the classroom.
It wasn't all day.
I wasn't online all day long, so I mean, I can't really speak to that whole side of things, but one of the challenges that we did face at that level was that there were a lot of kids from our classes who were at daycare during this time. So they missed out on that kind of connection piece. So that was a little bit of a challenge for us, is finding ways to connect with those kids that don't have access to technology, you know, when we're available and that kind of
Yeah.
you know, just we would just kind of make little videos for them and send them to them to watch in the evenings when they got home. And then sometimes they would send us something back, or, you know, that kind of thing. You just have to find ways that work for the families, I guess. So that was a bit of a challenge, but.
There, you can continue answering this if you want, but there must be a felt pressure to keep kids learning at the normal pace. That even though, like, say in high school, they're only going in person every other day, but we don't want to sacrifice grades on the report card, or we don't want to sacrifice material covered. There's got to be a pressure, you know, and say for you, Marissa, this is their first year in French, you know, how does this reflect on all of us as teachers if they get a poor start or they don't do well in this class, even though the time is limited? You must feel pressures like that.
I do.
Yeah.
I feel a lot of that. I do. Even though they have a prioritized outcomes, like for math, for example, we have fewer outcomes to cover than what we would have in a regular year. but still it's a lot. It's hard, and it's not a lot, like it's hard to I'm used to working with small groups and getting kids together, and our kids are supposed to stay 3 feet apart minimum, and there's no group work. All of those little details, that the ways that you are used to teaching so that you can get somebody understanding something that's a difficult concept, I feel like, whoa, I don't really know how to do this super well in this environment, and you're trying to do the best you can, but you just feel like, or I feel like it's still not enough, because what I need to say, what I want to say is that it's not as good being in person with your teachers without a mask, so I can see your smile, so I can see your expressions, so I can see you working with your partners, so I can see you talking. That is better. And this will never be, it's like a mirror image of what's the real thing. And it's just, it doesn't work as well. And I understand that we have to do this. It's nobody's fault. I'm not blaming anyone, but I don't want to come to the end of this and anyone misunderstand that this was never as good as what it is when we have, a full classroom with lots of dialogue and no masks and a regular teaching load 5 days a week. That is best case scenario. And it always will be, we can't replace it with some kind of like Zoom call.
I think by nature as teachers, we want to do the best job we can. And having done something a certain way for so long, that suddenly changes really challenges that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's all of us as teachers, that's just in our natures. We want to do the best we can. And when we, I think, walk away from something feeling as though we maybe didn't execute something the way we would like to, that we have failed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's, I see this with students of music all the time. Sometimes they're harder on themselves than an audience would be, or than maybe maybe than I would be, or whomever. And I think, like I said, I think it's in our nature to want to do well, and be able to do the best, the very best that we can for our students. For me, it's forced me to think outside the box of, well, if a student asks me this question and they're in the room, I can just grab this instrument and show them this, or I can flip on the smartboard and show them this. Now I've got to think in terms of, if a student at home asks me this question and I have to explain this to them and they're not in the room, how am I going to do it? Quite frankly, I think that has the potential to make a lot of us become better teachers and better planners. In my case, I feel like it's actually helping my planning a little bit, because after, having been doing the job as long as I have, sometimes it's easy to fall into little habits and little shortcuts and so on and so forth. And suddenly, oh, I can't think that way now about this. I've got to be prepared this way. But again, that's just my experience with it.
Yeah, I think that it's caused a lot of teachers to stretch outside their comfort zone a bit.
Yep.
Which isn't always a bad thing, because there are some teachers who are very comfortable in that comfort zone, and if this wasn't an expectation, then they might not have, made that stretch. So I guess that could be a positive.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're bang on. It's almost never a bad thing, because we grow. It's the only way we grow. Like, we don't grow in places of comfort. We relax and we get lazy, or we get in routine or habits, and some of those things carry us for a while. But I don't think any of us ever set up in our professions to, okay, I'm going to get about 5 years in, and then I'm going to stagnate there and just roll right out for the next 30 years, right? None of us set out to do that, but we can easily do it. You guys have you said about it not being the same without having kids there in person. As a pastor, somebody like a voice at the front of the room, the idea that teaching or, you know, even life change can happen without it being like life on life. I think that's kind of one of the things that's been exposed, right? Like we still need that place, that sort of workshop where, like you guys talked about, group work doesn't exist on the same levels for you guys now, maybe. But talking to a camera lens to kids or people in our church or whatever it is, one good thing is it makes us sharpen our skills, I think. I didn't realize how much I, like things like that. But I also think it makes us, like you said, Will, it challenges our thinking about how we carry out the things that we do. All kinds of good stuff, but it is tiring. Like change is almost never bad, but it's almost always tiring.
And it's interesting when you talk about the camera lens. When you're in front of a camera lens, you know, one way or another, worst come to worst, if you had to, you can stop, you can backtrack, you can polish, you can, you know, you have these second chances, but almost at times having those second chances is more exhausting than just going out and doing it.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
You overthink
You
stuff.
know?
You don't realize you play off the people who are in front of you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. That's
Absolutely.
huge.
Like how much does
Yeah.
teaching rely on the students' responses and involvement, and not having this tech delay where, like, don't forget to unmute your mic if you want to answer.
Mhm.
Right.
Well, and that's what makes it so
That's huge.
dynamic. That's what makes it so dynamic, is that, you know, sometimes something comes up in class that maybe you didn't expect at all. And
Yeah.
you go in a direction that you know, is maybe more exciting than what you had planned originally.
Yeah.
You know?
I just know that,
My jokes don't land nearly as good online as they do in person. In person,
Dang funny. You're dang funny.
what were you saying, Nikki?
middle school students don't like to turn their cameras on. And if that's the case with high school students as well, man, is it boring sitting and teaching to a bunch of little icons that, you know, and the kids will respond and they'll talk, but like you were saying, Neil, about unmute your mic and all of that. It took me twice as long to do some stuff, especially if I was doing conversational things, which I do a lot of in my post-intensive French class. Those are the French class for the English students. It took me twice as long to get through my daily routine of, you know, asking and answering questions. Just for that factor, I do not envy you, the high school teachers, at all. No way. I love having my kids here, being in a classroom. Like,
Yeah, teaching a group of 5 and 6-year-olds how to mute and unmute your mic is not fun.
And teaching them.
I love having them here.
What you're talking about, Marissa, I'd have a short call with each student as much as I could. Teaching students one at a time. Like,
Yeah.
I know.
I mean,
I know.
maybe in some ways you get more done with a certain kid that may not be talkative in class, but man, I didn't sign up to preach with people or lead worship in front of one person, right? And have them,
No.
come on, join in with me here. And I'm thinking some kids would be like,
Mhm.
I don't know if I want.
Yeah, you know, that's really interesting. Do I have time to share a really quick little story?
How quick are we talking?
I don't know, hour and a half. No, well, okay, this is really interesting.
It's in week 2.
Just back to the camera and like the kids not wanting to put a camera on themselves and whatnot. Last challenges that we had was getting ready for our grad choir, which we do every year. And leading up to it, myself and a couple of other students worked on a little project where we figured out what song we wanted to do for their grad song and so on. And we worked out a track that we set up a little Teams page for all the grad class and the senior choir kids. And we sent out the track, and we had this idea that we could put it together like some of the videos that you see on YouTube right now, which are all kind of constructed and whatnot. What was happening was we noticed after the due date where we had asked to have these videos returned that we had gotten very few. And we're like, this doesn't make any sense, because We have a lot of students every year. Like a typical grad choir is anywhere between 70 and 80 kids. It's usually a big group. And we're like, out of all the years, we figured where everything's been going on with the pandemic, kids are going to want to do something. And then we started looking at some of the videos that they sent. And it occurred to us, because like I said, we didn't get very many, but we had a few. And myself and a couple of the other senior students started going through them, and we figured it out, which was that even students who were fairly confident in their singing were so self-conscious about seeing themselves on the camera singing and hearing them singing that they said, you know what, I'm not going to do it. And they backed away from it.
Mhm.
Our time is running out on us here. What's your hope for students this year, or maybe even just big picture in general? What's your hope for the students that you teach, other than just covering outcomes? Because we know that that's a given. What do you hope to see for your little apprentices that you're raising up?
I hope that the research is right, and that past experience is right, and that these kids in 2 or 3 years are going to show us that this really didn't have that much of a negative effect on them academically, that they're going to make up for the time lost, regardless of the fact that they lost 4, 5, 6 months of school or had to do an entire grade 9, grade 10 year online. In a couple of years, when they get to university, when they get to higher grades, they're going to show us that, no, we can still hold our own, and we can still, we still learned what we needed to learn and stayed academically strong. And I think it's going to happen. I'm pretty confident.
Neat.
I would, yeah. For me, I don't know that what I hope for our students has really changed a whole lot, apart from maybe, that increased, as Nikki said, like that sense of resiliency.
Mhm.
My ultimate hope for my students ultimately is that regardless of what subject area they're most interested in, or that they excel at the most, is that they value the learning and that they value the experiences above everything. And I think in my mind, we've truly educated students when they're able to carry out a lot of things independently. And that's my hope, is that, that this experience, really builds up that sense of resilience with them,
Mhm.
and that they're able to take that to a level of independence in their lives. That would be my hope.
Nice.
My hope for my students is the same as it always is every year, that they're kind and responsible little people in the world. And even looking through what we've been going through this year, to just look for the good in what's happening around you and what you do, and that kind of thing. And they're teaching me that this year too. So every I'm going into a day anxious and overwhelmed, and they find all the good little things about the day, and so they kind of help me reflect on that too. But I want them to be good, responsible, kind people, and just to hopefully one day they can sing again. That's a big hope.
Yeah.
At school.
Nice.
For me, I just think about the experiences in my own life that have been really hard, like really tough stuff. And they have been defining moments to kind of figure it out, dig deep, lean in, and get stronger. And so my hope for these kids is that, like what I'm hearing from you guys, that there's this resiliency. Like I think about Glennon Doyle, she says, we can do hard things. Like I want them to come out the other side and think, man, I thought life was hard before, but now I know what real hard is, and I can do it. And I'm better for it. I'm stronger for it. And man, I can take on the world. I can do the things that are hard in life. And when something else comes along, because it's going to be hard, there will be other things that are going to come, and they're going to be stinking hard, and they're going to rock your boat. And you're going to go, okay, I'm going to lean in and I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to be able to get through it because we all got through it. And so that's kind of what I hope for these kids, that they see that in themselves, and they just feel, courageous and strong because of it. And I think they will. I think they will. I have the most confidence in these kids. Like I heard Nikki say earlier, they're just absolutely so sweet and so good natured about all that we're asking them to do. And they have such a good attitude about it. And you just think, wow, you guys are doing it. You're doing the hard stuff, and they will be stronger for it. I know they will.
Cool. You guys are good. You guys are real good. Those are great words. Those are hopeful words, and I think it's good to hear hopeful words, isn't it? Like, I think our heads are down, like nose to the grindstone so much this year. I mean, any year, but this in particular with so much change. So I just want to say, we appreciate you guys. Everybody who's going to be watching this, we appreciate you guys. And I can't imagine being a teacher at this point in life, but thanks for leaning in and taking it on, and sometimes taking it on the chin. I'm sure it's not always been easy, but thank you for being resilient and continuing to just give your best each day to the kids who you teach and you interact with. I think probably every single one of us can think back and think of one or two key teachers along the way. They maybe didn't inspire us or make all of us want to be teachers, but they influenced us in a really positive way, and we looked to them for that. So thanks for being those people, and thanks for being those people in our neighborhood, our community. Those of you watching tonight, remember your teachers. Pray for your kids' teachers. Maybe bring your kids, send your kids' teacher a gift card in the mail. I don't know. They didn't ask me to do this, but just like maybe put it in the comments if you're watching what you like, okay? But just, this has been great. Thank you for sharing. Thanks for letting us know you a bit more tonight.
Well, that was fun. Thank you, teachers. Thanks, Marissa and Tara and Will and Nikki, for sharing from your hearts and from your experiences this past year and over your career, the things that you've learned, the things that you've wrestled with and struggled with, and the things that you're currently being challenged with. All of us are being challenged in these days. And if you're at home and you have a student in school, or maybe you don't have a student in school, I would just like to encourage you to pray for your teachers, the teachers in our community. Pray for your student's teacher. Maybe just drop them a note, send them an email, send them some kind of an appreciation. Everybody's tired. Everybody's ready for things to be different, but we're not there yet. And we've got the opportunity to love our neighbor like Jesus called us to, and stand up for each other, take care of each other, and give to each other and serve each other in this season that we find ourselves in. So take the chance to do that. Take the opportunity to do something nice for a teacher in our community. Whoever your neighbor is, be it somebody who's in charge of something in our community or in a place of authority like a teacher, or we've talked about cops, maybe it's people at the hospital, but maybe it's just average Joe down the street who you haven't taken much time for. Let's do some of that. Let's take care of each other, and let's serve one another. Again, Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. That's the one of the greatest commandments. He says to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. But the second commandment is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. And that's the evidence of our genuine walk with God, is our love for our neighbor. So whatever you got to do, just do it. Take the time stretch beyond yourselves, get uncomfortable, reach out to somebody who's not just in need necessarily, but somebody who you would like to get to know, and share yourself with them. It's been a good 4 weeks. Thanks for being part of Thursday Night Live again, and look forward to hopefully another session in the spring, and we'll see you there. Take care, guys. Hang in there. Let's sing it together. Who are the people in your neighborhood? Oh yeah. See ya.
Oh, who are the people in your neighborhood? In your neighborhood, in your neighborhood. Oh, who are the people in your neighborhood? They're the people that you need.